So, Mr. President, here we go again. The majority is pushing a bill that will help some Michiganders, but not all, as they look to take us back to the policies of the lost decade, an era of Michigan's history to be emulated, don't you think? Michigan is one of many states that piggyback on the federal earned income tax credit by offering credits against the state's personal income tax. The federal earned income tax credit is a magnet for waste, fraud, and abuse. The IRS estimates that nearly 28% of all earned income tax credits, totaling $19 billion a year, are improperly paid, and very close to that same number of abuse has occurred decade after decade. The Government Accounting Office says that 1/3 of the improper payments were to illegal aliens, with the millions upon millions of illegal aliens pouring into the country with the current president's blessing, I might add. I'm sure we're going to see an explosion of fraud associated with this program. On top of the illegal alien payments, a friend of mine years ago looked into buying a tax preparation franchise. He worked there for a couple of weeks to decide if he wanted to purchase a couple of these franchises. In his 2 weeks of working and investigating, he was astonished at the number of individuals coming in and discussing how to fraudulently sell or obtain illegally the earned income tax credits. He discovered it was very routine for these individuals in the thousands to sell the Social Security numbers of their kids at a time the typical price was going for around $600 to $800 per Social Security number. The exchange worked fabulously. If the seller had exceeded their maximum credit of 3, they only get 3 credits, they could sell the rest. This benefited the individual selling the Social Security numbers, but also the person who purchased them to use on their tax returns to get a tax credit for each child's Social Security number that they purchased. The seller would get the $600 to $800. The purchaser would benefit to the tune of thousands on these tax credits. Expanding the state program will put Michigan taxpayers on the hook for tens of millions of fraudulent spending. Overpayments to the Earned Income Tax Credit program in 2021 were $18.9 billion per the Office of Management and Budget. When I was the chair of the Finance Committee, we looked at ways to expand the program, but also to eliminate the immense fraud. I discovered there were some fabulous ideas to do this. One is the National Taxpayer Advocate Nina Olson recommended in 2019 that the definition of a qualifying child be revised and that the family size element be separated from the credit. The Tax Foundation suggested making an earned income tax credit a per worker rather than a per household tax credit. That would go a long way to fixing the fraud. Congress could have put in place incentives and penalty structures that encourages more recipients to ensure they are not accepting improper payments. But so far, none of these solutions have ever been implemented. The current level of improper payments would send any private company spiraling into bankruptcy. Fortunately, there are effective ways to make changes to the program where it wouldn't rip off the taxpayers. Unfortunately, none of those fixes are in this bill today. There are also many amendments we could work on that have been proposed to us today and in the last session that would provide much needed tax relief, not just for some, but for all Michiganders. Such bills, though, were vetoed by the governor. So, unfortunately, what is best for all Michiganders is apparently not a priority for this new majority either. Thank you, Mr. President.